Hi, and welcome to Elevated Woman Training. This is Anya Grace, and I am here with my beloved teacher, friend, and colleague, Shannon Port. And she is the founder of the Art of the Feminine podcast and platform. And we are here to talk about what to expect in 2021 in relation to the divine feminine and our path in healing and stepping into our power, specifically as women. So it's always so special to work with Shannon, and it's just a privilege to be in her presence. So I'm excited to share this video with everyone. And yeah, welcome.
I feel the same, and it's an honor to be here with Anya always, and it's special energy right now too, with a holiday week, and we just had solstice, and we're coming to the end of the year, so really special to be here with you today. So thank you.
Yeah, the solstice has been my favorite day of every year for the last 5 years. It always feels like the most of all events and holidays and everything. It just spiritually has always felt like the most potent for me. It's like the deepest new moon, like the day to truly let go and to truly plant seeds and set intentions. So it's nice to be in that pocket. And yesterday we had that powerful event astrologically, and I don't follow and do tons and tons of that in my space, but I would love to hear, Shannon, if you would share just a little bit about what the event was and how it is affecting us right now, but also just projecting into 2021 in relation to the divine feminine, what just happened.
Yeah. So, and you're talking about the event we had on solstice when we had that conjunction, and yeah, that's what I thought.
2 days ago, I guess now.
Yes, yes. And also I know that the solstice, that's so amazing to hear you say that, because I know kind of how it's aligned with your energies and your just what you are gifted with in this lifetime. And it's amazing that you feel that, because it's so aligned. It was really nice to hear that. Um, so yes, we just had on an archetypal level, we had the planetary conjunction of the planet and archetype Jupiter with Saturn, and it happened at 0 degrees of Aquarius on the solstice. So on that day, we're already celebrating and honoring the birth of the light in our psyche, in our consciousness, and coming out of the womb, the birth of this divine spark in humanity, which is what wakes us up and what helps us to remember our divinity. So, and that happens in the north, and then in the southern hemisphere, they have the summer solstice, the complete opposite. So on that potent day, we had this conjunction at 0 degrees Aquarius. And so just to give a little description of what that means, we're entering into the age of Aquarius because the vernal equinox point is moving through the procession of the equinoxes, and it moves through the signs. And so it's entering as of around the 1960s, when it started to become popularized in popular culture. We're moving into the archetype of Aquarius. And so what that means is that the alchemical healing that we are doing in our consciousness, which is what all the signs of the zodiac are, is going to be really, really influenced by this particular archetype. And it's already started. There's no one particular moment, but it's just a wave that comes in. The archetypal energies come from the divine plane, and they come in like a wave, and they wash across our consciousness, and our each individual vehicle is set up to attract certain energies based on who we are, and whatever coding that we have individually. So whatever parts of that wave of energy you capture or stick to you will depend on who you are and how you're meant to be activated. And so this particular wave of energy that's sweeping across us and literally changing us on the cellular level. And again, it's all psyche. So it's physical, but it's also elemental psychological energy is so connected to everything that Anya and I work with in our work with on Elevated Woman and Art of the Feminine, and the work I do with Light Body Woman, because it's really activating a Venusian, a Venus type influence, which is really connected to the goddess. And so through the archetype of Aquarius on the there's the exoteric teachings, but I work with divine feminine astrology, where I work with the mystical and the inner and the more esoteric. And so on that level, it's very connected to the archetype of Venus, and which is very connected to the female form and the consciousness container of the woman herself. Even though this energy is in all life everywhere, male and female polarity, the woman is particularly aligned to birth this energy and to become the full embodiment of it. So let me just see if there's, so it's connected to, so as a correspondence with Venus, it connects with what is known as the Venus transits. So Venus in the sky traces the pattern of a perfect pentagram, perfect geometrical pentagram, which is the symbol of spirit. And so by that energy, we are shown how the feminine really gives birth to spirit in consciousness. And so it's so potent and powerful. And so going into this new energy, which we're talking about is the divine feminine energy on the planet. Today in this video, we'll talk about how that will be really active in 2021. We're receiving the wave of how to literally fully embody the energy of awakening. Aquarius also on a mystical level represents the full awakening of all of our centers of power within us. So it's very connected to a couple numbers, one of them being 8, which is connected to Saturn, and it's connected to, it represents 8 portals of consciousness, or the 7 portals within our chakra column connected to the sun and higher energies. And let me just see if there's anything else. It's the Venusian influence that's really, so in my work, I often talk about it as the age of the divine feminine. So that's bringing us into this energy, because it's truly the divine feminine, and we'll probably get into talking about woman more, that is the heightened expression of creative energy, which is the heightened expression of the woman who births. And because of this correspondence of this energy, it is truly a time of awakening heart energy and the higher truth, the wisdom of our consciousness and our body of light, our fully expressed consciousness, all our potential, and the traits of the feminine and love. And I'll leave it right there, because I could go on and on and on, but I'll wait until I wanted this to be a back and forth. So there's so much. It's a really beautiful time. And so that's why we're really excited to have the conversation.
We're just like going into the conversation so slowly, like there's so much, and we're just stepping into it. One thing that I want to say, because you've been mentioning symbolism, is one of the really changed my life. It was a piece of wisdom that I learned from you on symbolism being deeply connected to the feminine, because it's like the language of the subconscious. And even if on a conscious level we don't understand something, our subconscious, what this infinite wisdom that we actually hold access to, recognizes symbols, sounds, frequencies, art, music, and it is the language of the goddess and the divine feminine. And I just wanted to share that with everyone, because for those of you who are new to Shannon, some of the things that you'll hear her say may not mean anything to you, but when you understand how actually applicable it is, how when we, and just working with symbols, simple symbols, or well, simple but deep, 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 complex, and infinite symbols, um, actually are a way that we awaken our divine feminine power. And I've learned a lot of these symbols, these sacred symbols, through some of your deeper courses, which we'll talk about later. But I just wanted to share that because it helps. I think it could help, people understand how important that simple thing that you shared. And I don't know if you want to share more about the pentagram, but
Thank you so much for Anya. I love how Anya is such a master at being so articulate and also being able to translate it too into even another level of, because it really is simple. So even though I'm talking this language, and we'll break it down too, but it's very love and truth at its most potent level is so simple. And so yes, the subconscious mind is always decoding reality through symbols, and symbols correspond to sound and color and elements, and they correspond to particular emotional frequencies. And I know your audience works a lot with frequency, but our whole world is really, we're decoding from our subconscious mind all the time, the symbolism. And symbolism can be magnetized to even move us in a certain direction. And that's what's really happening right now in the world. The power of symbolism is used all the time, even in advertising and on the woman herself, because with the age of social media, you'll start to see symbolism everywhere. We don't have to hyper focus on it, but it does open an archetypal language. And so, for instance, just even saying the pentagram, because it's so awake in me, that opens books of stream. I call them streams also of music and wisdom and communication. And so that one symbol is condensed light. So what every symbol is it's light condensed into one form that carries universes worth of information. And it's really all, it's like music, it's the word, it's the power of the word. And so that's why symbols are so powerful. They pack out a lot. They're records of everything. As far as the pentagram goes, it's known by its upright tip, facing upright, and then, which means it represents a spirit governing matter, which means that there is the higher, which is really the divine feminine energy. And so the creative energy is Shakti, and it's feminine energy. It's always creating reality. The pentagram is the representation of the highest level of goddess energy, meaning it represents the goddess energy regenerated and restored into its connection with the divine will, if that makes sense, meaning it's in harmony with the whole cosmos. When you really truthfully awaken that symbol within you, it means that you're harmonizing with everything everywhere. Like Anya, before we were talking about truth, everything is truth, but especially when you're harmonized with the truth vibration, then you're doing that dance in its lower aspect. The way it's used, sometimes it's inverted, and that just means it's going into the underbelly and using it's one of the ways. It just means it's the low, it's a consciousness that's more bound and in bondage, and so that's why it can be associated. But the divine feminine is the upright pentagram. And
I'm going to ask a question. Well, for one, it was so powerful when you were talking about symbolism. I felt all this emotion rise in me, and tears almost, because and I use words a lot to describe this to the women that come into the work with me, and a lot of it I've learned from you. But just like, I was even talking to our friend Lindsay yesterday, and we were talking about different words and how, like, and even different religions and different schools, and everything holds coding, and it's like the unseen energies that are that are inside something, and everything holds those energies. And it's what's unseen that is it's the divine feminine. It's the language of the movement behind a word or a room or a person. And we were talking about even the word meditation, and just how for two different people, there's a different relationship to that word. And that ultimately, part of the reason for that is the word meditation. There are actually tons of energies that have actually attached themselves to that word, or to every word. And how do I say this? We were just talking about that, like, and I think it's different than the coding, but okay, I'm going to slow down. I just want to be clear on this. Like, everything and every person is receiving what we put onto it. So what we put into a room and into the walls, it holds that vibration. And that's why different places that we walk into feel different to us. And the way that we feel is essentially the goddess in the walls communicating to the goddess of us. And so I feel like part of what we are stepping into in 2021 is this energetic communication or energetic intelligence, that the more that as we've seen, like, I really see us, we've been studying science and math and all of these technological, supportive philosophies and works, and really what is going to be so valued as we move forward is this energetic world. It is the music of the goddess. So
I love it that you guys had that conversation and we didn't get a chance to talk before we came on about that. I love it that you were having that because I wrote down a bunch, some things in that along those lines too. Are you,
I'll say a little bit more, just that, I feel like also part of our superpower is going to be us being able to discern the truth. And what I'm noticing more and more in myself is being able to pick up distortions that are around me. And more, like the other night, it was the night of the solstice, and I was outside and I was like, this energy is crazy. And in the past, I used to, when I would feel energies kind of like that, I would feel like it was mine. And I would have this anxiety that I felt like was mine. But I've been doing so much work that there's, in myself personally, there's not really much right now that's not turned over. And it was really powerful to have this experience of feeling the collective and being able to feel sort of the energies that were floating around that were distortions almost being kicked up. And I think part of our power as women is going to be more and more in revealing this ability to stay rooted in that truth and be able to, almost like a laser beam of light, penetrate truth into what is not in truth, just in our presence. So I don't know really what I just said, but I'm just gonna hand it over.
So deep. No, I know it was hard for me to listen because so when Anya and I communicate, and we've been doing this for a while, that there's so many things, like when we go back and forth and talk, so many different archetypal codes drop in. I mean, that's what happens. And it's kind of like to juggle them all because they're all right there. And so I'm looking around, you said that, and I'm like, that one's there, that one's there. It really is. It's the language. So first I tried to write down a couple things, but when you talked about the word, a word is a symbol. It's a living symbol. And once we give our voice to it, in a word is it's like a fence of energy. Every word contains a power, it's a literal power, because that expression formed, and we have the inner word, and it has everything to do with the age we're going into, and this 2021, huge. Well, and I'll mention it in just a moment, because words are heightened, and we'll see more so that as we speak, we create. And as, like you said, looking around the room, you are projecting the room onto it. And I've been talking a lot about visioning and visioning reality as you go from truth. And the reason I pointed out that you and I have this kind of heightened conversation and communication, and which you have all the time, I mean, it's part of your gift too, is that we tune in at that level. And so then that's available to us. And so you know when you're in that level of communication, because it's so alive, and it transcends ego, and it transcends whatever bad is happening in the world, or whatever drama. When you go into that place, you realize that you're pure creative power, and then you're being blessed and given the wisdom with a capital W, and it activates your heart. Do you agree? Because that's the space we all long for. It's like it's like a form of intimacy. It's like divine love, to be able to commute interesting, with each other at that level. We all long for it, that creativity, that bouncing off each other, that really hearing each other. And so it's going to be heightened in relationships. And I wrote down to talk about meditation today too, but when you said meditation too, and I was thinking of the first three letters of med, and you think of med, to medicate, and to med, and I know it's pretty obvious, but it's going to be the age of meditation, where meditation is non-negotiable, because that is how we access the inner language that you just spoke of. It's like, it's a time now where, to move forward, you want to learn how to access that, because then you're connected to the universal, and which is connected to divine love and the divine feminine, because then your subconscious mind is risen, like the rising divine feminine, and it's giving you a foundation for life. There's nothing that can knock you off that. You're supported. And yeah, let me just see if there's anything else around what you just said. Truth being the anchor. That is the truth. That's what the divine feminine is, truth with a capital T. It's just the truth. And when you're in the truth, the ego has to take a back seat, and you start vibrating higher, your frequency's higher, and your heart comes online. And that's truth. When you're in that place, everything petty drops away. And I'm sure this is going to come in a few more times, so I'll leave it at that. But amazing.
We were receiving the same thing in the same moment. Truth with a capital T is probably my favorite. I think it is my favorite word. It is. It is.
That's how I see you, by the way. Your archetype is truth. I always think of truth when I think of you.
It's interesting because it's almost like every divine word with a capital letter at the front could equal truth. Like nobility equals truth. Nobility with a capital N equals truth, meaning that it holds the divine truth. The core, when we connect to the truth of that frequency or that code or that symbol, it brings us right into the goddess. And it's one way to kind of see this in an application too is, at least what I kind of work with my clients, is to recognize that it's we have this, I like to call it our core code. And I know you have different language for this, and I've received, it's like we have this core code, and it's our perfect, probably like our light body, and divine energy is coming to us in every single moment and projecting out. And depending on the clarity of our field, that divine energy is either being projected perfectly or it's being distorted on its way out. And therefore we receive distorted life around us, essentially. And it's almost our intention and orientation on the spiritual path is, well, this is how I simplify it with the people that I work with. It's sort of like we're working to clear away the distortions in our field and come back to Anya with a capital A, not Anya with a lowercase a. That is me, but it's the contracted, manipulated, distorted form of me. It's still truth, but it's not nearly holding the power that I am. And when, and that's really, again, like 2021, at least what I feel, and this whole shift is, like you were saying, is we're touching into what it feels like to be fully awakened to truth and our own expression of that. And again, to just be able to, because we know that, then to be able to discern it or not it on the outside. And I think the more I feel that the more and more that this happens, it's like rapid wildfire. It's spreading. It will spread so quickly because it's that powerful.
Yeah, it will spread. And that's the number one reason to really become your greatest truth, because it will spread. I love what you said about how each word with a capital letter, meaning that in its most authentic, is truth. And there's a really high correspondence with 2021 with truth. So okay, so these are some correspondences that I work with in some of the esoteric work, but truth is connected to Saturn, which is connected to the number 8. And there's so, and Anya, because I know her well, has so much of this in her field. And so because I've worked with Anya for many years and I've watched her unfold some of these things, and I know her archetypal blueprint and what I call in my work galactic core code. I know her code, and I've just watched as she's cleared this, she just speaks what I've already seen and know. Like with Anya, I don't even really tell her because I just know she's going to come with it. And when truth is her favorite, and truth corresponds to Saturn and the fruit, because truth is what we birth, and we give. So there's the highest truth, but then there's what we give birth to, which is our truth, meaning whatever, and this goes along with that distortion. If we have a distortion, what we birth will be the truth of what we're carrying at that time. And so in our life, when we look around at what we're creating around us, it's coming from either the perfect prism that I call in, that's refracting the light, or it's the distorted prism. And so it's beaming off fractured truth or broken down truth. And in all of the healing work is about reclaiming those parts. Any of that shadow work or transmutation or any of it is about claiming that. And but there's a way that regardless of where we're at, because we're all imperfect and we all have different realities operating. I was really picking up on this when you were talking, that you create different versions of yourself. And imagine there was all these different worlds happening at once. You project yourself into different realities in the field that are playing out, this is pretty deep, but that are playing out a distorted idea. And so even in certain traditions, they talk about claiming them back. But if you just become a magnet, which is when you become magnetized and you hold the truth that Anya is talking about, and you become that, in which I also work with it in as the light body, and the core, and the everything you were saying is exactly it. It will magnetize all those parts back to you and reharmonize them into your field. And then we start to take all the little coordinates that were dramatic or karmic, and there's a kind of shift that happens with them where they get restored or regenerated, and they become, now they're lighting up the field. And well, I wanted to say this, and we'll talk a little more about 2021 if we have time. I know we get going. So 21, the number 21, and this is so profound because we had the solstice on the 21st. We're entering the 21st century. We're entering 2021. 21 is the inversion, the change of 12 to 1 2 to 2 1. 21 is the number of truth. And so isn't that wild? So this year it's about truth, and there's another correspondence with this year too, but it's the 21st year in the 21st century. And so after as we go through the numbers, that is also a correspondence of love and the fruit. So the truth of what you birth is your love in action. And so when you hold the high truth, everything you're birthing is a fruit that you want to eat. There's a saying, the fruit we birth, we have to eat, because we birth it and then we have to taste it and see if it was, it's like anything. When you cook something, you taste it and see if it was right. But the perfect truth, it manifests as a harmony in our field. I'm sure you could say a lot about that too as well. But isn't that amazing how it is truth? And I wrote a lot about that too. And I didn't know you were going to say that, but it's about truth, and your truth will save you every time. And it's a result of your wisdom and your love together. And it gives you a kind of, it's your power then. So happy, feeling really excited for this year. It's a major shift. When we turn over to a new year, we change archetype. You can already feel it coming in. Do you have any questions you want to touch on, or is there anything specific? I have some things I just kind of jotted as the stream was coming about woman, but
yeah, I'd love to hear. Well, one thing that just with the pentagram, this is something that I think I'm curious, not just personally, like you said the pentagram, it's basically the spirit governing the body, the matter, which is the goddess. And just in the relationship between the divine masculine and the divine feminine, I've learned so much from you, where there's information that exists nowhere else, in my opinion. And this beautiful, actually, relationship between the divine masculine in its highest form, which is governing and guiding, leading, ruling, and like the true emperor, leading the kingdom and everyone that he has birthed, been part of birthing. He's responsible for existing in many ways. And then the inverted pentagram basically being the fallen form of that masculine. Is that correct? Like, can you
it's very close, yeah. Because I'll just do a little archetypal wisdom. So the emperor is the sign Aries, and the sun is exalted in this sign, and it's a masculine sign, and it's about I am. So you can kind of see how these things come in. And so the emperor, the true emperor, and the projection of this emperor, even through the male form or even through female form, is to have the mind, the higher mind exalted, discerning, lit up, and ruling, and even governing the heart. So that what our mental diet is, it's what we are, what we eat. But our thoughts are our mental diet, which feed an emotional diet, and then we produce our truth, because everything we think and then speak as well. So that's Aries. So that would represent the sun, the blazing sun going forward as I am, and that's a divine masculine. And so another archetype for the fallen is so this past year, there's been a lot of, in the past few years, many years, there's been a lot of activity, clearing, cleansing, cleaning energy of Capricorn. Capricorn is, it's a Saturn energy, which it has a very heightened, pristine, because it's the creative power of Saturn to bring light into form and densify it in matter or in symbolism. But through the archetype, you'll see the inverted pentagram, because it means literally that the light is trapped in matter. It's bound. And that's why if you look on the archetype in the tarot, you'll see because it's the binding power of Saturn. And so it gets a bad rap, but it means the pentagram is connected to the elements. It gets earth, fire, water, air, earth. And then the very tip is ether, or the cosmic ether, which is the goddess energy. And I sometimes call it solar feminine, because the solar energy is that divine masculine energy. But when matter is under governance there, it becomes spiritualized. That's awakening or ascension, or the light body. That is the light body, and that's the core code. That is when your elements are all dancing in order for you, your specific mission, then you can wear that. It's why it's often used as a superhero symbol. It truly does represent a blazing light. And I hope that's not too much astrological, but I work with the astrological as archetypal wisdom, and it truly is books of knowledge. And so did that answer your question about how the pentagram inverted is related to the fallen masculine, and we associate in all the things that happened this year with the patriarchy and the, just that kind of energy, was that being rewritten in our consciousness?
Yeah, and yeah, it's like that point of the pentagram, the ether. I think that's where, and we don't have to spend too long on it, but it's more like, I'm so curious. I could nerd out on it forever, but just that point is whether it's fallen or if it's inverted, is it still the ether point? That's like
well, yeah, because the point down means the soul trapped in matter.
wow.
So yeah, it's the point, it's down. So think of it's down in the lower vibration. It's hardened. So if you think of density, and so you hear a lot of mythology, and I've done a lot about this, about the soul being trapped in the underworld. It's when we lose, everything is so, and that's frequency wise, we're so down under that we contain the divine spark. We still have the tip, but it's been overtaken by the elemental force, which is so the pentagram is it's like a triangle on top of a square. So the triangle represents the goddess, and the square actually represents the four elements and matter. And so the triangle through the number 3 and the Trinity, it represents the Trinity now being in alignment and harmonizing the elements so that they're in touch with the higher frequency. They're on that vertical core. And so they are, so now they're like a rod, a masculine, it's amazing, but it's all masculine and feminine dancing. That's all it is. We went into more of the archetypal. I'm not sure if you were talking about the planet too, but so the ether is the higher energy that comes in to restore the elements that were in. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. So a way to describe the point down would be addiction, pain, suffering, being overtaken by images that are taking us in the wrong direction and not decoding them properly. So now we're under a different rulership. We've now given our power to be ruled by a force that is not even awake. And so that's basically what 3D is that we still have this human experience, but we constantly give our soul energy over to be used and manipulated. And the woman, I'll lead you in to the next segment. If we have time, we'll go into a little bit. The woman is profoundly connected to reversing that situation.
Wow.
So
that would be great to talk about.
Yeah.
That's like a really good thing to talk about next. And okay, this is just, it's very much bringing a lot in that is clarifying. And one thing that I'm seeing too is you said just briefly that ether is sort of what it can almost reset everything. And I think of the word transmutation, and it does feel that, again, us coming into that light body, it feels like it has to do with, well, everything that I do and you do, I know I see so clearly how we can connect to those points of contraction within us. And they're literally points of contraction in our bodies. And those are where we're holding, it's like that's where we're bound to to the inverted pentagram. Literally, we can find where the inverted pentagram is lit up and still binding us by where in our physical body there's tightness. And it's amazing to see that and realize that every time we go into those spaces and bring spaciousness into those places, ether, it dislodges that tightness and clarifies it. And it's so amazing to recognize that. And to me, that's what allows the distortions to clear. So that's incredible. And there's one more thing that I wanted to say. There's so much. It's really hard to have these conversations.
I'm going to
It's
say
so
something really quick.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's why when we talk about the sun, and that's why we work with solstice and this, because we're in the system, and the sun represents that higher ether. There's a sun and then a sun beyond. It's like a fluid. So imagine when you are seeing a little bit beyond the dense reality that we live in, when you start to, like you said, I can't remember if it was before, you were telling me about walking into a room and seeing truth through the walls. Can't remember if you said it on the video. That's seeing the vibration, the quickening vibration. So the sun, when we look at the sun and you receive rays from the sun, that's why the sun is so important. They have information in them, those rays of light. So when we talk about a symbol being a densified light, a condensed light, I think is a better word. A symbolism is condensed light, and it has messaging. It literally is the light of the cosmos, the creative light of the goddess. We're going to, in this age of Aquarius, discover that light has words in it. That's why we call the word the logos power. It's the sun, it's the light, and there's a core sun. And so that's why I work with the galactic core too, like Anya's working with the core. And that has the highest frequency light. That's the nucleus. That's where the archetypes live. And so when we access that, we can get the upgrade in our technology. We can, we get, and everything realigns. And what did you say about, it fixing with, I think you talked about it coming into your field and then clearing the distortions. That's exactly what happens. And then our emotional energy, which is also the goddess energy responding to the light, the divine masculine, becomes upgraded as well. And so our heart is no longer in bondage. The heart energy of the feminine is actually locked in this world. And that's why we know as women, we have this energy, but everything we experience is either going against it, trying to use it and misuse it and redirect it, or to create this reality, or we just haven't done enough, surrendering of our ego to really, really be able to love. And sometimes there's a learning curve that comes with that too. We have to figure out how to have power, how to have wisdom, how to have love. And our relationships challenge us for that reason. So that it doesn't mean that you can just breeze through a relationship. We have relationships to actually get that experience of, clashing, so we can wake up and claim that back. That's why relationships are so sacred.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Am I on track still?
Oh yeah, no, this is so perfect. It's perfect. It is. So the last thing I wanted to say, I remembered what it was, is like what you said with the rod, just to translate and to tie it back to what you were saying before. It's the mind, the heart, and the will. And when the pentagram is inverted, it's thoughts or programs that we received, such as, in order for you to be valuable, you have to have this certain body shape, for example. And when we're programmed with that exploitative thought, basically what's happening is it's like the lower pentagram or the inverted pentagram. We're penetrating our own heart. Those programs are penetrating our own heart, and then our emotional body is in pain and drained, and that's our sexual, creative, divine feminine power, and it's exploiting that soul power. And so I just wanted to give people an example, because that's what so many women are in, is being attacked and enslaved, I think are words that are related that you use, to these programs that are an outdated, they're not for the highest. But again, to come back to truth, it's like we have the power, what I'm learning on my spiritual journey. And it's just so, I think this moment is really special too, because didn't I start working with you exactly pretty much 7 years ago? And
Yeah, oh, is it 7? Did we hit 7? I mean, it's been a while. Yeah.
5, I
No, no,
can't,
no. I think it was, yeah, yeah, we're in our 7th year. We're in the 7th year. And the 7th year, oh my God, is the fruit. The
it's,
7th, meaning in 7 represents like Saturday, the 7th day of the week is ruled by Saturn. 7 represents the so we're in the 7th year of knowing each other, and the fruit is being
yes.
coming ripe.
Like, like
Anya the master.
everything I've been living this. I've been living and experiencing all of it, you know, and it's just amazing. It's just so amazing how real it is. Every single piece and what's anyway. So yeah, let's I'd love for us to just go toward whatever you want to share, you know, on 2021 and I feel like there's this like pocket where relating to the feminine, we just touched on it a little bit, but as women, how we are such a deep part of this process of coming back into like that true form.
Sounds good. And I also want to say that that even that for me, it's a gift because the fruit is also the gift that comes back by witnessing Anya. Meaning, do you know what I mean? Like getting to see just like everything unfold, even though knowing the seed contained everything, because you start as a seed, but everything's in that seed. But then when you get to see the fruit, it's amazing. And it's a representation of the flowering and the bearing of fruit that's going to happen in humanity. So did you say for 2021 or women, or I just,
Yeah.
okay. So let me just see where we should go. Okay. All right. So I talked about the body. The body represents the fruit as well, because Saturn is also connected to karma. And so we carry it. Our body is a representation of many different things, and that's personal for everyone to discover that. So I'm just going to, I had just jotted this down. I'm just going to see it because I think it's about healing the body. And it was about how the masculine sees the body too, even of the woman, or how anyone, we look at bodies. And so we see the body with our human eyes, but really, and this has to do with woman, we are actually giving off light and truth and spirit. And so in relationships, of course and especially as women, we want to take care of our body and feel as good as we can. I mean, we want to definitely take care of our body, move our body, because movement is life. We have to move to feel good. Movement is the beating heart and the breath. Without movement, there's no life. It always moves. So having good movement is important, really important for women too, especially because we represent that creative energy and also stillness. And I'll talk about that in a second, but just know, I wanted to say this for the body because of social media. There's so much happening right now with social media also as well. It's going to a whole other level. We might have to do another video, and just like, I'm sure we will down the road, because it's going to be on in 2021, that technology, and I often call it technology of the goddess, as the, you know, what we're developing, because the outer technology it's meant to be here, but it has it's taking a dip into the fall, the inverted, even though it's also going to be used in a positive way. So yeah, when we heal our wounds, our light really starts to shine forward. And and so I guess we already talked about this, but that when we're talking about even chakras and the core column, and the spine is very esoteric for that too. It's about letting the light shine through and knowing your truth, because like Anya has said, when you know your truth, and she said, like right now, that's her whole thing. When you know your truth, that is always what's carrying you, always. And so when you just begin to sense it, taste it, feel it through the power of your soul and spirit, that is what you will have to carry you through life. So, and through these times, because things are shifting quite a bit, and mental energy is on, and so is technology. Aquarius rules technology, and it's the planet Uranus that rules, is closely related to the healing of sexuality, um, claiming our sovereign mind through meditation, and knowing the difference between when you are being used and when you're in your truth. There is a different frequency through the day when you start to get used to knowing, oh, right now my mind's being used. I've given it away. Once you know that feeling, at first it's a little struggle, but it will not even be attractive. You won't want to give birth to that fruit. You've been there. We call it seeing the fruit in the seed. So every word is a seed, every action, every relationship, every project. As you get wisdom, which this is about, the divine feminine's about wisdom, you don't need to plant every seed. You start being selective by the seeds you plant, because you already know the fruit. You've either tasted it, or you now can discern and discriminate. If I say this, and that's divine feminine power. It's like you look into the Akashic record and you already know. When that really comes online, it's amazing. That is that divine language of the divine feminine. You already know before you speak, before you do anything, and there's an adjustment period, but you're creating your reality. And I see you want to say something, so I'll make sure to say a couple things about woman at the end, but I want you to say what
I'm just like resonating. Yes. I feel like I'm in an experience. I'm having the experience of that. You just put words on to what I've been feeling like. I slip up sometimes, like I know better and I'll still say something or do something, and I've already seen the outcome and I'll still do it. And it's just realizing that I can actually trust what I see and I don't have to live it out, and to basically practice the containment.
Amazing. That's amazing. I just want to put, so this, just to show how this language is, so it's the law of its correspondence as we're working with, to be able to see it, that's what we call intuition. So a true intuition, there's the intellect, and there's different meanings for intellect, but intuition is when you do exactly what Anya just said. And that is a divine feminine power. And I'll just say this now, I'm doing a whole video on the archetypes of 21, but 2021 is, and numerologically, it's a 5, and 5 is the number of intuition. And the age of Aquarius is the age of meditation, which is the process by which we claim our soul language and speak on, like you said, the energetic, intuitive level. And so all the noise and the battling of the ego level communication has to take a back seat to that. And sometimes it's heightened, like even when Anya and I get together, it gets a little heightened because it's a voltage, it's a power. Do you feel it? Do you know what I mean? Like when you're having heightened discussion. And so there's wisdom also in knowing how to go about that, because you're now carrying more power, which means your field is exposed to the higher levels of light, which means that it's going to trigger awakening and clearing and healing. So that's what the spiritual So it's like it's catch-22. You want to get it, but once you get it, be careful, because that's why we go in through initiation, because as the light touches you, you have to hand something over, and that can be painful. So woman is a vehicle for all of this. And I'll ask Anya if she has anything else she wants to say. And I want to say a couple things about the feminine, just whatever's meant to come in about woman.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, maybe I'll start and then we can just do a little more back and forth. So because the feminine is the outward expression of subconscious, and we could say other things about that too, but the feminine, the female container holds a great ability to access subconscious energy, which is also feeling energy. And so that's why you think of women, we think we feel deeply. This is not to say that men don't feel deeply. So I know this day and age, you want to be respectful, but archetypally, and oftentimes, more often than not, physically in the container on the polarity of the female side, there's a very readily available access of subconscious energy. And so, because we're needing to heal that energy, women can access it, but which means they can access the light of that and they can also access the dark of that. And so, we're changing the codes right now in the woman because I wanted to go back to something you mentioned before. Can't remember exactly what you said, but as women, we also have to take responsibility for our feeling energy because we're literally, our ability to create is amplified. And because we can feel so readily. It's surprising I've worked with a lot of men, how many men, when you get to understand on an archetypal level the difference in the psyche and how like we really feel everything. That's why we're sometimes we're known as being emotional or catty or even competitive, because we're feeling everything at such a heightened level and we're creating it as fast as we feel it, that when we're around other women, we're like, there's a lot of energy. And we also are natural creators and birthers, so we instantly harness something and want to give it form. We want to bring it in. But I'll pause here. The healing of the feminine consciousness is very going to be, and it's not like there's a competition, and bringing it into divine feminine consciousness, it's, or elevated feminine consciousness, as you speak in Elevated Woman, is it's a top priority. And we don't need permission from any political leader, any social media platform. That is your sovereign right and ability to do that, to take responsibility for this energy. That's how the world will change. Would you like to say something? And I'll see if there's. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about woman. Well, first of all, so we've had a lot of images of male masters on the planet, and I address this a lot in my work because I often say I've lived the feminine wounds, which is much deeper than even those words sound, but I've got to see them and work with them face to face. And so to really, first of all, see they're there because they've been pushed into the shadows. Once you know something is there and you live through it, you can claim it, you get the wisdom of it as well. That's why healing our wounds is always the best way to become powerful, empowered, because once you've turned something over, turned over that stone, saw it, looked in the dirt, brought it back in alignment with your truth, your core code, your rightfully activated pentagram, you own that wisdom. It becomes part of who you are, part of your field. So in the path I've had, I've been able to understand through relationships, through spiritual, close understandings of the spiritual lineages of male teachers on the planet, and through even through motherhood, and through all the archetypes of the woman I've got to go through, and or regain memories from other times as well. So understanding, let me just check this for a second. That's why we talk about the balancing now, why it's so important for the feminine and the woman to heal now, because we haven't had a true representation of equality and harmony like you see in the infinity sign or the figure 8 sign, where the flowing between those two great poles of creation, the divine primordial masculine, primordial feminine, have to be communicating for this higher energies or body of light energies to come online. We're doing it individually, but on the planet, it's the feminine taking on that work is so powerful. So the feminine is oftentimes represented as beauty and as desire, because when we think of desire and being attracted, you can think of in art, the feminine brings that energy forward. You can just look at an image, and masculine too, but it falls under the archetypal energy of feminine, that when you see it, you want to take a bite of the apple, put it that way. It's like, it awakens desire And so that's connected to Venus. And so I talked about how the Venusian energies are so, because you want to taste it, but then we're learning how to know what we want to really truly eat and what is real and what's not, what holds the higher energy that's perfect for where we are now, or what we no longer need to dance with. So that the more lusty, lower energies that are really out there right now everywhere, and I believe it's just because they're coming out of the collective subconscious, and so they're everywhere, like you said earlier. um, we um, we have to let me just see where I was. Okay, as woman, yeah, we're learning. I lost it for a second. It'll probably come back, but we have to understand what we're birthing, and um oh, the balance between masculine and feminine. We're stepping in. Isn't that funny? It's like I always know when that happens, and being there's a force. So we live in this world of forces. I'm just going to say this really to understand energy is force, and it's always kind of the energetic world is always trying to play to get in there, the dark energies and the light energies, and we're clearing those. So sometimes the dark energy will, when you hold a lot of light, I'm just going to say this because it's I won't go too deep, but as it's important for everyone to know, as you really awaken and touch that light, like we talked about, the whole world paradigm will come towards you. Because if you can imagine it's you against the world, there's some truth to that, because everything that's in the other vibration will be like, no, we're taking that out. You can't have that. And that's the great journey that we go on. We claim it, we claim it, we claim it. And then pretty soon the whole world bows to that. And so you no longer have to look to or worry about it. Because of the times we're in, we still sometimes have to deal with a little, if you're holding a lot of light, you still have the entities or the forces will come, but they're just energetic, and they come on multiple levels. So the feminine holds beauty. That's what it was. Wow. Beauty and desire. And then the feminine also holds the mother and birthing. And that is something we're really healing. And I've done deep work in that. It's profound. We birth life, and that's no coincidence that is connected to the feminine as well. And then we also hold, and we could go on for that for a long time, but we also hold the energy of the highest compassion and truth, meaning like true universal love, true. We hear that a lot, but really, because of the heart connection and the feeling connection, everybody has it, but our ability to touch that is quite profound. And then to initiate the masculine, because I used to say this a lot, but I stopped for a while because it's a little triggering, but the woman is the initiator. The woman is the initiator and the activator, because once you hold that, the masculine will bow at your altar when you truly hold that, because it's their greatest grail. All the grail mysteries are about the knight finding the grail, and it's really the feminine energy within him. And so we play that energy together. And so right now it's really it's important for us to, there was one last part, the forces are on. Well, it's all just coming into play now. And I'm gonna stop right there, but I'll see if you want to say anything. Relationships are big. All of it's everything we work with is like, it's all part of this process. Yeah. I feel so much reverence by this. When you really touch it, you just know the warmth of your heart comes on, and you know that everything is okay. And the whole world around you will shift. And so, yeah.
So much to say and so much silence at the same time.
By the way, I wrote this down too, so I'm just going to say it. So first of all, and we heal this relationship and friendship too, and real friendship. But I wrote this down. So the beauty of the woman and the desire is very connected to the physical level. And so it really activates us physically, meaning it activates all our five senses, which are part of the pentagram as the five senses as well. So it's really powerful. And there's divine beauty too that transcends the physical, which is what we're all really awakening, but it activates our physical. And the mother energy activates the heart, which is the spiritual level, and it's our creative emotional level, because we birth from the mother energy, but the compassion and compassion is one word you could use, but it can also just be true divine love accesses the divine level. And so that's why once we've gone through our initiations and the others, we learn how to balance the sexual with desire and beauty. We learn to balance the heart with creative, and we hit the highest. Then we are in complete union with the divine, and we are we are just what this time is about, because that's that central rod, that's that core code, that is it. And we're all going to get there, but there's definitely a big role for women to play.
So just for everyone who's listening and present, I'm kind of seeing it's like a somewhat of a synthesis. Just it's like we could, like, obviously the woman, there's so much, but I'm hearing these the words beauty, birth, and compassion, and hearing that really, because I mean, for me, a big part of my spiritual path is knowing that this archetype of the divine feminine is out there, and knowing that, like, the healing of the mother was needed in my life, like that the lineage of the mother line in my family, and really this whole world, I feel like it's for everyone. And part of, I believe, what we're doing in this 2021 and what I'm seeing is, and probably the entire age of Aquarius, is it's the beauty, the birth, and the compassion in the highest. And it's just interesting everything you're saying, because it's so I just am, it's so in my life right now in the biggest ways, and just realizing, like, I really seeing the illusion that this beauty has been the source of our value, this false beauty, that it's such an illusion. And it's almost like I so don't want to be a part of it, because I know that the fruit that would birth from being a part of that illusion in any way, the partner that I would attract or be with, when two people are coming together almost under that structure, the fruit is something I'm not necessarily interested in being a part of. And it's like I don't care for that anymore. And then the compassion and the wisdom of, sorry, there's just so much. And I think that, can I share one example really quick in my own life of yeah. Okay.
You're asking me, it's your channel.
I know, but I just have so much reverence. Like, there's just,
I love it. I know we're both that way too. Should we do this?
I'm just having this. So I had this really powerful experience yesterday of realizing that in my field, as I've been going in so deep in this healing and truly overturning every stone, that there's been a part of my psyche that has been sending out a message to those in my field that I love, but have had pain with, relationships, from like love to mother, father, to friends, where I know where I'm going. And there's been a part of my psyche that's been almost in the energy of, if you don't meet me here, you're going to lose me. And almost sending out a pain signal, like, it's coming from pain. that message of you're going to be left behind. And something awakened where I realized that in the highest, the message that would really truly be sent, the compassion, is you are coming with me. We are all going here together. No one is left behind. And there's no need to, I don't know how to describe this. It's, so one second. This is what I want to say, just to synthesize it, because there's three different directions that I could go. But the one thing that synthesizes it all is, as women, I believe if we can connect to truth, we will awaken the true beauty, and we heal the mother, and we open to that compassion. And it is the most beautiful energy. And it is far more beautiful than anything that we have ever been. When we connect to that, it's the only thing we really want at a soul level, I believe. And it's so exquisite, it's so unknown on this planet, it feels. But that is, you know, just the work, I know the work that you're doing, the work that we're doing together, it's all about this. And a lot of women here I know are motivated by like the power to hold that, to hold power. And this is the truth. This is how you hold true power. It is actually this. But we're going to even transmute that motivation to hold power in those ways. And it's just that that's going to fall away too. But anyway, we'll just close up a little bit, but I wanted to mention that because that's, yeah, there's lots of different directions that I could go. But that's the biggest message in kind of synthesizing what you just said and my own experience too, that if we can commit to truth in our word and our presence, our psyche and everything, that's the only thing. If there's anything to tether us, that would be it, I think. Like that's what will carry us.
That's so beautiful. How you said that in the beginning of this was amazing. It was so beautiful. How you connected the energy, and it was amazing. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to like the part about leaving people behind and taking them with, it's like when I'm in my truth, that when I'm in my true truth, in my wisdom, in my compassion truth, you know, there's literally nothing to fear and there's nothing to compete. There's nothing. It's so far beyond in our power. And it is true that things will fall away that don't meet us there. But when we are there, we don't even, things may fall away, but we don't, there's so much compassion and love as those things fall away. It's almost like we don't ever lose anything. We just love deeper those things.
That is the most powerful thing that you just said, because that's true. And yeah, and we go through that stage of is thinking everyone's going to fall away from me. I'm on this path, and that's a big kind of the emotional attitude in the world. And we're meant to experience that, our power of I'm stepping away. But the highest compassion is what you just said, and you're way accelerated to have even this kind of realization, because even with parents and the mother lineage and all that, because that's a deep, deep, deep one, especially for women. And you're already gaining, I can feel it. It's already coming through you that it's so powerful, because everything does shift around you. And I've lived through it. So I've been able to experience it and watch the thing, so many things, because I'm a little older than you. And so I've seen you will be blown away by what actually stays and changes. And it's amazing. And then you realize how harsh we are with each other. And it's only because we're in pain and we're suffering. We're trying to figure out how to do it, who to toss away. But there's always some big surprises on what happens. Some people will naturally fall away, but like you said, it's with compassion. So amazing, Anya. Thank you for sharing that.
I want to make sure that everyone knows about Shannon's 3-month mentorship. We have these 3 mentorships that are like they run next to each other and they're so powerful. And Shannon's doing hers in this upcoming month, starting in January, and it's 3 months. Do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Sure. I'm beginning a 3-month women's group mentorship starting in January. And it's called Light Body Woman, Divine Feminine Energy Activation. And I'm also calling it the Trinity Codes, because for the first time I'm combining 3 of the major platforms together. And I've been doing work with the woman. I mean, it came through me in a very, very, very magical way a long time ago, even when I was younger, but I had to go through a few things. It was there as a baby, but then I had to wander away into these, but it's been coming through very, very powerfully for a long time. And because of this mentorship is going to be the most powerful sharing to date of this information. And it's at the level, because if you understand the wisdom, the divine feminine wisdom, it has to come in. If it comes in prematurely, it can cause, it's coming in, put it this way, I'll just say it's coming in at the right time for this archetype. And it's profound wisdom on the woman. And the 3 areas that we're really working with are Light Body Tantra, Light Body Yoga, which I call technology of the goddess. And Light Body Tantra is healing all the sexual energy in the field and it way beyond. And then Light Body Woman. And I'll be doing a little divine feminine astrology too. You don't have to be interested in that, but I'm going to bring some of that in and just work with some archetypal coding, galactic core codes, and some of the inner mystery school teachings too. I have a real mystery school that was open years back, which which holds the goddess mysteries and the divine feminine mysteries of sacred union and love. And that's it. It's modeled after, Anya and I have similar model for the structure of it. It's amazing. It's good. There's a lot of download and teaching, and then private mentorship is included, and group work, and a lot of extras too. So it's just amazing. I'm so excited for it. And I was really, Anya has been there for me along the way too, and really inspired, some of this, the format of it. And I just can't even believe it. I'm so excited to do it. So it's in January. I'll put, I think Anya's going to post a link to it, and we're in the application interview process right now. That's it. Did I say it? Did that cover it? Okay. Yeah. And Light Body Yoga is the technology that is spiritual application. Light Body Woman is obviously, it's the deep, deep women's teachings, and Tantra is the whole relationship container. So the Trinity codes of that.
Yeah. And I did most of your programs around 7 years ago at this time. And it was the most important piece of my life up until this. Yeah, it was. I don't think I would be here if I didn't. It's hard to describe. It was just, I had to be there. I had to do it. There's just no way I would have been in this life and not have done that. It's just so.
And yet there's no way you wouldn't have done it, because it was
that's what I mean.
We were meant to come together, and she's not kidding. I've watched her go through. She's really and we work together now all the time too. So yeah, it's amazing.
And just so everyone knows, it's really a specific lineage of frequency, of energy, that Shannon is the source of anchoring here on Earth.
It's a seed lineage. Yeah, this is a very, there's many things out there. It's a particular stream, and I've been receiving it each step of the way, and now it's a whole. Yeah. It's the real deal. I know that. I've been the container of it. So yes, so it's going to be right for certain people that are you'll really feel it. It's beyond just another training or workshop. It's probably one of the most special things, I would think, even happening on the planet. I just say that because I know what's coming in through it. So for this coming year and leading us into the new era. Thank you, Anya, for mentioning.
So thank you for being here, and just everything. And thank you for everyone who's watching all the way into the future. You know, it'll be amazing to look back at this time, and we'll have seen a lot of what's birthed in ourselves and together and on the world. So yeah, just close out. I am.